Well, on Monday, the judge overseeing the murder trial of 75-year-old George Allen Kelly declared a mistrial in the case after the jury was unable to reach a verdict. Back in January of 2023, a Mexican illegal found dead on Kelly's 170-acre cattle ranch. It's in Arizona near the border after Kelly reportedly fired warning shots into the air. At least that's what he said. Kelly was then arrested and held in jail on a sizable $1 million bond for weeks on first-degree murder charges. Jurors in the trial had deliberated for 15 hours when Judge Thomas Fink called the mistrial. Status hearing has been scheduled for Monday, April 29th. That's this coming Monday, to determine whether or not the Santa Cruz County Attorney's Office will retry the case. Here with me to discuss this is Frontlines Turning Point USA reporter Kalen Delmaida. Kalen, how are you?
Steve, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
You know this case pretty well, right? And you know this problem with the border as we all do, but you're right there. You've got a front row seat to the action. First of all, this case, there's an illegal on his property, several. He says he's being threatened, and this isn't new. This isn't unique to this defendant, of course. It's happening all the time on a daily basis. People's properties are being overrun. They find people in their homes, in their barns, on their property. Some of them are armed. Some of them are dangerous. Bad things happen. What happened to a man's home is his castle. Can he not defend his property?
You know, Steve, I think it's very interesting because, one, we're talking about an illegal alien. So, one, we're talking about a criminal, somebody who doesn't belong here. And a man goes to jail for defending his property. We have every right to defend our property as Americans. That's part of being an American. It's literally part of everything it means, right? Defending what belongs to us. And so when you have a criminal coming in here, I don't understand the idea of prosecuting someone when everyone knows there are tons and tons of drug traffickers, cartel people coming through. I know a rancher.
Right, he doesn't know what he's dealing with.
Exactly.
That's the point I made. They don't know who they're dealing with. It could be a drug runner, could be somebody human trafficking children to be sex slaves. All sorts of terrible things are going on. Everybody knows it, and the people in Washington refuse to do anything about it to speak of. And we find ourselves in bad situations like this, right?
Absolutely. The current administration is not doing anything to help these ranchers. From Texas to Arizona to Southern California, there's border problems going on everywhere, but the ranchers are really being left to fend for themselves. So for them to be prosecuted when dangerous individuals who don't belong in this country are doing home invasions, burglaries, they're committing just trafficking drugs into the country, I think it's absolutely ridiculous to prosecute Mr. Kelly.
So what do you think is going to happen then? Obviously a mistrial, strong feelings there. Some people apparently wanted to convict. The others, we don't know how many, said, can't convict this guy. You can't. I don't know what the reasoning was. We weren't in the jury room, of course, but what do you think?
Well, I think if the justice system works the way that it should be, I think that we should not retry this case. I think it should just be dismissed, and I think we should all go on about our lives. And I think that we should be trying the criminals who come into the country instead of treating them as victims.
Yeah. How bad is it down there, and how far from the border are you, and what are you seeing and understanding that maybe isn't getting told to the rest of the country on a daily basis? Because it's in the headlines and then it's out. The big news operations try to ignore it as much as possible. Smaller outlets like ourselves roll up our sleeves, get to work, make sure we report the facts from the Darien Gap all the way north into the problems you're having in Denver or Chicago or wherever. What's happening there that maybe we don't know about where you are?
Well, here in Arizona, I'm just a couple hours from the border, and what I know is that illegal aliens walk around the border, and then Border Patrol picks them up and takes them to processing. But if you're a rancher, such as Jim Chilton, who's down there, he lives just south of Casa Grande. you know, he has sent me hours and hours and hours of video footage of cartel members in military camo, carpet shoes. They're armed. They have backpacks full of drugs, footage from his trail cams on his ranch. So even in a similar case, like, he's had people break into his home, and I totally understand the position of Mr. Kelly wanting to, you know, maybe fire some warning shots because he doesn't know who's on his property. So, you know, this is not an issue that is small. It's a part of a much larger problem that we're seeing that isn't being fixed by the current administration.
Right. So like I said, this is a daily occurrence. Every day people are encountering illegals because they come in. You know, I just saw, 2,000, I think it was San Diego sector. That was just yesterday, 2,000 at that spot. So we're back at 6, 8, 10,000 a day. Nobody's going to report it because Alejandro Mayorkas got impeached, and then they didn't do a trial because nobody wants to tell the truth in Washington that we're flooding this country with a whole host of people. We don't even know who they are or what they're here for or what their motives or intentions are. We don't know because we don't find out. They're just here. It's a frightening situation, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely scary. And so I think if more people understood, and I think this is a good story because we can bring attention to what's going on, not only at the larger issue of this immigration, but, you know, we should be standing with our ranchers who do live at the border. So I think shedding light on this is a very important thing. I really hope that Mr. Kelly isn't retried. I don't really see why we need to feel bad for the victims or, you know, like I said, something that people don't know. This is what I have been forgetting is that there are RIP crews, and a RIP crew is essentially another cartel that actually does look for other cartel members smuggling drugs, and they basically attack and kill them and take their drugs from them. So there's all kinds of problems when we don't secure our borders.
Sounds lovely.
And that could have been very
sounds lovely.
Right.
Look, right. I don't want anybody getting killed, but people drown crossing the river on a regular basis. Little kids, oftentimes we hear about drowning coming across the river. You have the cartels involved. You have landowners that apparently, you know, people get into violent confrontations here. I don't want anybody to get killed, but as long as we continue to incentivize people coming north across our border illegally, it's going to continue. The violence is going to continue. The death and the trouble is going to continue. Sad but true. Kalen, thank you for being here.
Steve, thanks for having me on.